Welcome to the Rewild Gear Podcast. Modern life, society, and responsibilities have domesticated us. But now it's time to rediscover your adventurous side. Whether that's camping, hiking, hunting, fishing, or just spending time in the great outdoors, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we get back to the wilderness and rewild. Welcome to the Adventure Made podcast. I'm your host, Seth Spears, and I'm here today with Stu Shank. Stu is the co-founder and CEO of Reiff Knives, a new direct-to-consumer, family-owned, American-made knife company. I first became aware of Reiff Knives last summer when they launched a very successful crowdfunding campaign to back their knives. And I was super impressed with their branding, marketing strategy, and even more importantly, the high quality of their knives. My brother Adam, who you've heard on the podcast many times before, and I had the pleasure of hanging out with Stu and his brother Ben last month at Blade Show, Texas. And all four of us really hit it off over drinks, talking about family-owned businesses, the outdoor industry, and our passion for creating high-quality and American-made products. So super excited to have Stu on here today because I feel like we've kind of been on similar trajectories over the years and our companies are somewhat similar. So Stu, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Seth. Really appreciate you having me. It's an honor to be here.
Totally. Well, let's get into it. So I'd love to kind of just get a little bit of background about you. Obviously, you've done a few things before getting into the knife and the outdoor industry. So just give our audience a little bit of info about you, who you are, where you came from, and kind of how you got where you are today.
Yeah. I'm from America. I'm a dad. I have 3 kids, a wife. I've got 3 young daughters who keep me very busy. Let's see. I've made a career out of sales and marketing. My most recent exploits prior to starting Reiff Knives, I was working at a company called Stargazer Cast Iron, which is a direct-to-consumer cast iron cookware brand. And that was really the catalyst for me jumping back into the outdoor industry. You know, I've always been passionate about the outdoors, and I get that from my grandfather, and we can go into that later. But it's it's really instilled deeply in me, and working for other people for such a long time, you know, you get tired of it, and you realize, there's not a whole lot of upside there.
I know how that is. Been there, done that.
So
wore the t-shirt.
And I think probably much like you and your brothers, I got together with one of my brothers, Ben, who you, like you said, met at Blade Show, Texas. And we were just like, why aren't we doing something for ourselves? We have good skills. We have, we have some resources. Like, let's try something. Let's do something family. Let's do a family business, and let's really see what we can make happen. So anyway, we've both been into both guns and knives for a long time. I started collecting knives probably about 12 years ago. I love knives. I've always loved knives, really. But
same team.
Yeah, but really, I jumped in with both feet. I mean, head first. Probably about 12 years ago. And so for us, it was really like, what can we do that we won't feel like we're going to work every day? Is like, man, this feels obvious. Like, let's start a knife company. So, here we are. And this is about 3 years later. We're finally coming to market. And, we do, you said we're direct to consumer, and we have a direct to consumer component, but we will also be in dealers and retailers. Right now we're working on filling a bunch of pre-orders. You referenced the Kickstarter. We had that successful Kickstarter. Yeah, it's been a ride, man. But I just shipped out all the Kickstarter orders last week. So I'm really glad to have that off my plate. And now we're looking to fill some dealer orders. And it's just keeping us really, really busy.
Great. That's so fun though, huh?
It's, if you're going to be stressed out about something, it might as well be your thing and not somebody else's, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I want to dig into a whole bunch of things here, but especially you're starting a business with your family and your brother specifically, that can be a lot of fun, and, family is great and working together, but it can also have challenges as well because, you know each other really well. You know what you're good at, what you're not good at. You get on each other's nerves. So tell me a little bit about that, what that process has been like and how that's been starting a family-owned business like this.
Yeah, there's that old saying like the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. So as far as that goes, I mean, it's been really good. I'm lucky to be in a family that, we all have very good relationships with each other. My brothers, I have three brothers, three biological brothers anyway. I have a stepbrother. I've got a brother-in-law who I love all of them unconditionally. And it's, for us, I don't think we've seen some of the challenges that other people may see in a family business yet anyway. I'm sure there will be challenges because there's challenges with everything. And just like anything else, and particularly in business, it's like everything always takes 3 times as long, as 3 times as difficult as you think it's going to be. And that has been the case. But luckily, the chemistry between my brother and I has not been affected at all. He's still one of my best friends, and I'm sure will continue to be forever. So it's just, we haven't, and look, we're going to have our challenges, I'm sure, down the road, but it's been awesome. And it's given us a good reason he lives in Dallas right now. I live in Pennsylvania. It gives us a reason to connect on a regular basis. So, it's really, I think it's been refreshing for both of us because, again, we just, we're a very loving family and we have great relationships, and I get to work with one of my best friends. So that's been really great.
Yeah, that's great. So tell me a little bit about the skill set differences between you and Ben, because obviously you're both bringing different things to the table. So I know you have a little bit of a marketing background and working at Stargazer, right? That's the name of the cast iron company.
Yeah, so, most recently, yeah.
That's so tell me a little bit about that background and your skill set that you brought to the table and how that differs from Ben's and how you kind of divvy up some of those duties and things.
Yeah. It's been interesting, right? Because when you're first getting started, I think, and this because you're an entrepreneur, when you first get started in the startup world, like a lot of times you have no idea what to expect. I mean, I think we were lucky. Ben's owned businesses before. I've been a part very early on in several startups in my career, where I've had sort of a high level of responsibility in those startups and have had access to the information that drives all the processes that help to grow a company. So, I think that both of us have been able to leverage those skills that we've had from past business experiences to help to at least jumpstart Reiff Knives here. We share, I think, a lot of things in common. We both have had quite a bit of time in sales roles for other organizations. Right now he's some sort of senior level director for a major software company in sales. So, he's been really busy doing that. Since January, I've been doing this full time. So I've taken on a lot of the day-to-day responsibilities. And we talk regularly, and we brainstorm and so forth. And it's been a good balance. And it's, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, what the organization will look like in the future, but that's kind of how we're set up right now. Mm-hmm. His background from an education standpoint is in finance, and having run other successful businesses, and for him, and I'm speaking for him here, he might punch me after this, but
that's okay.
From Texas.
We'll get the boxing gloves out, let you guys go at it.
Right. It's good he's in Texas and I'm in Pennsylvania right now. He's got a lot of experience, truly like running and managing businesses, particularly from the financial standpoint, and that's been more of his forte, I think, in his sort of startup experience. Just because that was his background. He graduated from East Carolina University with a finance degree, and he's been able to put that to good use over the course of his career. I have a business administration degree, for whatever that's worth. Not much, I can tell you.
I have one of those too.
Yeah. So, it's just, a lot of it's just sort of trial and error, and then we are leveraging our past experience in sales and marketing. And Ben's also, I'm going to just keep pumping my brother up because I'm uncomfortable talking about myself. Ben's also, he's really a mechanical genius. Like, he was the guy when we were in middle school and high school. He was always like creating these new gadgets from nothing. Like an air powered potato gun.
Oh, fun.
Like really just off the wall stuff that it's like,
I want one of those.
And this is back before the days of YouTube, where he's just figuring this stuff out. And it was just, I think that we both have strengths that complement each other. And we both have strengths that we share. And I think that's important too, because that gives you, that can help bring a different perspective on what you're trying to do with your strengths as well. So, I think we're in a good position from that standpoint.
Yeah, no, that's great. So from there, so you were former positions and the things that you guys were doing before, and then when you decided you were going to start Reiff Knives, tell me a little bit about that process from idea to, company formation and some of those iterations to getting to launch.
Ooh, all right. Yeah. So, 2019, I come up with this cockamamie scheme to start a knife company and, start talking to Ben about it and convince him it's a good idea. Man, I really fooled him. And
that was 2014, you said?
That was 2019. Sorry.
2019. Okay. Gotcha. I misheard.
So no, it's all good. So this is pre-pandemic, and it's funny because like everyone's like, "Oh, you started a pandemic business." Like, no, we were working on this pre-pandemic, but did the pandemic help facilitate the growth of the idea? Yeah, maybe. But it was 2019. The idea was born. I'm not an engineer by trade, but I started getting into like CAD and knife design, and I have a history of sort of art. I've always been sort of an artist. I've got some artistic talent.
Cool.
Our grandfather was an artist, and he would take me to workshops and stuff. And I think that skill has translated into sort of the knife designing, but making something that's both aesthetically pleasing and also functionally practical. Is really the basis of design, and that's what we've tried to do. But all throughout 2020, it was just like we're just working on these designs, R&D. What are going to be the best materials? Why? What do we think? What do we think are the most important functional characteristics of a knife? You really only have two pieces of a knife. You have a knife, you have the blade, and you have the handle. It's like, you hold the handle and you work with the blade. It seems simple. A lot of people screw it up. So we wanted to be sure that we were doing something that was going to be just like maximum functionality. Yeah. So most of 2020 and into 2021 was just like coming up with the knife designs. And what the materials were going to be, and also learning some CAD and being able to kind of get in there and do some things, obviously with the help of some professional engineers, because that stuff's really complicated. There's a robust feature set in CAD programs. But anyway, I was lucky then to have a lot of experience building websites, building out sort of marketing plans, marketing mixes, trying to understand, and also just seeing and understanding the market, what people are looking for, what people aren't looking for. It's just, you have to take all these things into consideration. And we spent a lot of time evaluating those things. So yeah, let's see. I think we launched the website in April of 2021. So about a year ago. Yeah. We're technically, I don't even know at this point when you're actually to market. I don't know what that defining. We sold product through the Kickstarter, and we had some pre-orders on the website that I finally shipped last week. So it's been a really long road.
When did you first start taking orders, the pre-orders and all of that?
Yeah. So our Kickstarter was last June. It
Okay.
started. It ran end of June to the end of July, and I can't remember the exact dates. And then we did about 2 months of website pre-orders around the end of 2021. That were then taken down because I don't want to be a pre-order business.
Yeah,
I've seen pre-order businesses. I've been a part of pre-order businesses. It's a nightmare because
definitely.
with the Amazon effect, if you will, people expect stuff right now. It doesn't matter what the quality is. It doesn't matter and when people hear an estimated time of delivery, that's gospel to people,
Yes.
even though it's like, no, this is like our best guess of when we're going to be through production and we're going to be able to ship you these products. It's just it's a tough position to be in. So anyway, we've since shut down pre-orders, and we'll open up orders back up as soon as we have inventory to
More in
sell.
stock.
So looking forward to that day.
Yeah. And that's a very different attitude than some knife companies that we know that just continually take pre-orders and, takes them a few years to ship. So,
Yeah.
which is always interesting strategy, which I don't.
Yeah. I just, and for me, it's really more of a personal thing. Like, I just don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that position because there's no guarantees in business. It's like, I don't want to take people's money
Yeah.
anymore without having a product to ship them.
Yeah.
Because things can go wrong, right? Things go wrong all the time. We can't control everything. We can't control the world, and it's just get yourself in trouble quick.
Yeah. It's definitely one thing if you're taking pre-orders and, they're in production and, they're coming. It's just maybe there's a supply chain issue or slowdown or shipping or whatever. And so it takes longer. It's something else entirely when you're taking a whole bunch of pre-orders and it's just proof of concept and you haven't even maybe lined up your manufacturer or had the materials in hand or things like that. So very different. So, there's something to be said for leveraging other people's money like that. However, that can also get really sticky if things go belly up. So yeah. I like the way you guys are doing it. To me, that definitely seems like the more ethical way.
Thank you.
And that's very, very much the way we went about it at Rewild Gear too.
Yeah, no. And you guys are doing a great job, man. I love what you guys are doing over there.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a fun project for sure. I'm still in the middle of it. Stu, tell me about the knife design. How did you guys settle on the materials, the design, the size, the shape, all the dimensions about it? Yeah. Our audience loves hearing about the nitty gritty. All
right.
Let's get the steels, all that. And I know you're a steel nerd too. So
you have to.
So let's get into that.
I mean, you really have to be in order to make a good knife. You have to understand what the properties of the steel are and the value that the steel you're using is bringing to the end consumer. When we set out to make a knife, I was really looking to make the toughest, most durable. I don't want to say bulletproof because nothing's. It's hard to find something that's bulletproof.
The perfect knife, if you will.
Yeah, well, yeah, right, sure. We're always striving for perfection, and that way, right? If you shoot for the moon, you shoot for the stars, you land on the moon. If you miss, you're still pretty high up there. Anyway, yeah. So we have two knife models right now that we were taking pre-orders on. It's the F4 Bushcraft Survival Knife is the whole name. And then we have the F6 Leicu Survival Knife. The F4 is a 4-inch blade. It's got a 5-inch handle. So, it'll fit a wide range of hand sizes. The F6 is a 6-inch blade with a 5 and 1/8-inch handle. The F4, we call it the Bushcraft Survival Knife because it's really made we designed it for like finer use cases, bushcraft tasks, things like whatever, feather sticks, making fine tools out of wood, whether it's spoons or netting needles or whatever it is. This knife was designed to be able to take those tasks on. But we also, we knew that we were also making hard use survival knives. So we had to we balance the. I'm struggling to find the word, but we're trying to balance the refinement of what we're doing with also the ruggedness of what we're doing, so that you can make those fine bushcraft tasks or crafts out in the woods, but you can also pound through a piece of wood with it. to baton with it, or to do light chopping, or whatever it might be that you're going to have to do in a survival situation, out in the field. So, and, at the end of the day, we also wanted to make something that was going to last forever, that, people would be able to pass down to their kids or whoever they wanted to pass it down to.
Yeah.
The steel we ultimately settled on was CPM 3V. CPM 3V is a well-known steel. It's made by Crucible Industries up in New York, so it's American-made steel, using their particle metallurgy process that they pioneered, I think, back in the 70s, which just basically it makes much finer steel particles, gives you a finer steel structure, so that you have. Basically, you get a lot of benefits from that. You get a tougher steel. You get a steel that holds its edge better. I know you know all this because you guys are also using CPM steel in your in your knife.
We're using S35BN.
Yes,
so a little bit different, similar but slightly different.
Similar but different. Yep. Yeah. Same company, also the CPM process.
Yep.
And a great steel. We were really, the reason we settled on 3V is because it has that increased toughness. Now, obviously, it gives some of that, when you have that increased toughness, we've given up some corrosion resistance. So CPM 3V it's technically a carbon steel, and it's not stainless. It doesn't have enough chromium to be stainless. But as far as carbon steels go, it has much better corrosion resistance than other traditional carbon or tool steels, things like A2, 01, 1095. A lot of these other steels that you see a lot of other production knife companies, or, well, not just production knife companies, just any other knife companies using, you get a lot of added benefit with the 3V. And it's also a very well-balanced steel. So you get good corrosion resistance, you get incredible toughness. It's one of the toughest steels out there, and you get very good wear resistance. So it holds its edge for a very long time. And when you harden to where we're hardening, 5860 Rockwell, it's still got great wear resistance, but it's not so hard. Like if you go up over 60, you start to lose a lot of toughness, and you get crazy wear resistance to the point where it becomes very difficult to sharpen. So, everything that we did, we wanted to be about balance, and match balance to the functionality and the use case for any one of our individual products. So
totally.
Handle material, we went with G10. The simple fact of the matter with G10 is it's one of the most durable handle materials out there. And again, these are hard use knives. Wood's beautiful, wood's great, but it's also perishable. Like you really have high maintenance. It's perishable. That a wood handle you got to take really close care of. G10 is essentially maintenance free. It's super tough. And in a survival knife, we that's very important, right? It's again, just going back to the toughness. It's one of the toughest handle materials out there, and that's why we went with G10. We're using 3 sets of hardware because 3 is better than 2, in our opinion. If you only have 2 sets of hardware, you have a hard use knife. God forbid you blow out a screw out in the woods.
Probably also because your handle length is a little bit longer too. So you probably need that for a little bit more support, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it too, but that really wasn't the reason. The reason was really what we saw as the most important thing, which is making a knife that was as durable as possible without it being completely impractical, like way too overbuilt. It was about balance. And there's nothing wrong with 2. It's just with 2 sets of hardware. I mean, we're coming out with a knife, smaller knife that will have, just 2 sets of hardware. But again, it comes back to use case, right? For us, if you're making a knife to process game, you're not beating it through wood. You probably don't need three pieces of hardware in there. I mean, it's just again, it's all looking at your use case and trying to develop something that's going to be as practical as possible for what you envision this tool being used for.
Yeah, totally. And I find this so fascinating, just like the thought process between what we have done with Rewild gear and our Gasper 4 knife and what you guys have done at Reiff Knives, because it's a very similar thought process. However, the difference that I'm seeing is that you're going after more of the bushcraft and survival niches or sub niches of the outdoor space. And we were going a little bit more towards general camping and hunting.
Yeah.
Which it's also great as a survival and bushcraft knife too. And, both of these products will do sort of double duty there, but it's just a little bit more specific based on the blade shape and type and material. So as an example, we went with S35VN for its more corrosive resistant properties. Just realizing, if you're around water or you're skinning game or things like that, you want it to be a little bit more less likely to rust and to corrode and all that. So so digging into that, it's just really interesting, all the little minutia around the knife creation process.
Yeah. I mean, everything's a balance. And, we are certainly going to get into stainless steels, and had MagnaCut not just launched, it probably would have been S35VN, and that's a great steel. And totally, tough enough. You get the stain resistance. Yeah. Like that is a premium steel. Mm-hmm. And so you guys made the right decision. From where I'm standing, you guys made the right decision. That's a great steel, and I applaud you guys for investing the money to make a product with that steel. Like, it's, the CPM steels, American made steels, they're not cheap, and obviously our price points reflect that. And it's like, I know for some people they consider price in the balance. I mean, we kind of went the complete opposite direction. We were like, we're going to spend whatever money it takes to make the best knife that we possibly can. And and we think that the market's going to respond to that.
Yeah. Totally.
So, and I think that's important, in this. I think that the whole world has gone disposable. It's like, we're not making a disposable tool.
Yes.
This isn't a tool, and you guys aren't either. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why, we wanted to connect at Blade Show Texas, because we really enjoy what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And I look forward to owning my own Gaspar 4. But it's, you just have to consider all the variables. As far as we went drop point blade, on all the knives we're coming out with first. It's the most, in my opinion, the most broadly functioning blade shape is the drop point. I think most people would agree.
Totally, for sure.
And that's why I went with the drop point. There's anything outside of drop point, you're getting into more specialized use cases. Mm-hmm. If you Tanto, you might be prying with, it's like, you can pry with these, but we don't encourage it.
My brother Adam loves the Tanto style blade. I mean, he's just such a fan of the Tanto. I'm like, what do you got to do with that? Come on, it's just for looks, but not use.
Yeah, I mean, it's got its practical applications, and it does look so cool. I mean, I also love the look of a Tanto blade, but from a functionality standpoint, like, I think that you're going to get better use out of a drop point blade than you are a Tanto blade, depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Again, so yeah, it's all just looking at the use case, but that's why we decided to go with drop point on all of our initial knives here. And it's so funny, because there's only a few different blade shapes you can have, and it's and I'm sure you guys have experienced this, where like you launch a knife and someone's like, oh, well, that looks like XYZ knife. And it's just like,
oh yeah,
and then you put them up against each other. Like all knives remind people of so many other knives, because it's one of the most common tools in the world.
It was the first tool.
I mean, right. And we use them every day. Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a whole collection of knives in their kitchens. Everybody's got, so it's just always funny to hear the response.
Yeah, for sure. And I love what you guys are doing, especially that dedication to quality workmanship and materials and being made in the US. That was one of the things that we decided on too. And that's one of the things that really struck me about you and Ben, and just your mission to that quality. And I remember last summer just running across your Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign, and I pass this on to my brothers and like, whoa, check out these guys and what they're doing. This is great. Like, I love their branding and their marketing, and the designs they're cool too. It's different than what we're going after, but I really like what they're doing. So I was just so glad that we were able to connect and just really hit it off.
Definitely.
Let's get into a little bit about the crowdfunding campaign, because it seems like that was very successful, and that's something that we've actually talked about with next products down the road. So I'd love to hear your experience about that and the thought process going into all of that.
Yeah, so that was actually the second crowdfunding campaign that I ran. I learned a lot from my first failed experience with crowdfunding.
And what was that with?
So I have, it's living on computer servers somewhere out in the Neversphere, a social media platform that a friend of mine and I started that was designed to be for Christian-based communities. Mm-hmm. We never quite got it off the ground. We just never quite got it to launch. It was really a resources thing. But what I learned is that certain types of products or certain types of, really you need a product to do a crowdfunding campaign, not a
physical product.
Right. Exactly. Right. A physical product, a tangible physical product that someone can hold, like a manufactured product, not a software platform or some other.
Not ones and zeros.
Yes, correct. At least that's my perception, or one of the major reasons why the crowdfunding campaign for Outside Sunday probably failed. The other was we failed to build community around our cause. Whereas with Reiff Knives, we spent a lot of time and a lot of energy over those first 2.5 years before launching the Kickstarter campaign, just building a network, communicating our vision to people in the outdoor community, helping them to understand where we were going with our idea, what our purpose was, or purposes were. And when you start to build a community of people who resonate with the vision that you have for whatever your project is that you're working on, that's the biggest way to make it, or the best way to make a crowdfunding campaign successful. If people don't identify or can't identify with what you're doing, they're not gonna take a risk on you by backing whatever project is that you're doing. I think the other thing that made our Kickstarter successful was getting prototypes into the hands of people who A, know what they're talking about, and B, have some sort of a following that, so people who understand what they're talking about. In this case, knives, right? They use them regularly. They have many of them. They've got experience in the market that we're going after. Again, survival and
bushcraft and
outdoors, in general. People who are doing it every day and have good experience and can give you real functional feedback about the design, your messaging, whatever it might be. But also, and maybe even more importantly, is just getting eyes on your product so that people know you exist, which is particularly challenging for a knife company because everybody considers knives weapons, and so we've been demonized across every platform, right? And we're not allowed to advertise. We're not allowed to do this or that or the other thing.
So frustrating.
Yeah, it is incredible because knives are one of the most essential tools on this planet. And it's like, can they be used as weapons? Yes, but I can probably. I won't get into that. I mean, there's a lot of things that are sold that can be used as very functional weapons.
For sure.
In whatever given scenario, if necessary. So anyway, I don't want to get too far up on that soapbox, but
sure. So I'd like to dig into the community building side of that. So when you're creating an audience first before launching the crowdfunding campaign, what are some of the steps that you took to build community around the products and just the interest and the outdoor lifestyle?
You got to jump in and get involved. You have to be a part of the community. You can't just Like you can't just talk about it. You really have to do it. You have to understand it. You have to get to know people. You need to let people get to know you. You know, you have to come into it being yourself and just being genuine. I mean, I think these days, you know, we've all been beaten to death by these big corporations that are just so disingenuous, and a lot of them are just pure evil. And you know, when you can connect with people on a personal level, help them to like I said, understand your vision, and truly start to build real relationships, real friendships with people who are in that community, understand what they're talking about, understand what the community's needs are, who you can relate to, and sort of bounce ideas off of. And I mean, it's just get involved, be an active member of the community. You can't just sit back and be a passive observer. You got to jump in.
Old school guerrilla marketing, really.
Yeah, I mean that's what it takes, man.
Yeah.
That's all. I mean, hey, look, again, that's all we can do, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
But it's also, and I think, you know, you have to be a certain type of person to do that, because you have to be someone who likes people, genuinely cares about people, genuinely interested in the community and what that community stands for, and what it's all about. The function of that community, you know, being outdoors, learning outdoor skills, learning survival skills, whatever it might be, and whatever your target audience is going to be. You should have a general interest in that. If you don't, people are going to be able to expose you pretty quickly, and they're probably not going to buy in.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just in it for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason, in my opinion. No matter what the industry is in business. And, you know, anytime there's a lot of people that they see an opportunity and just want to jump in, but then their dedication to the quality is usually going to be lacking, as opposed to someone who they have a passion for it. Like you and I, we have a passion for the outdoors.
Absolutely.
And that shines through in your marketing, in the product quality, and in all of those. And often, because we're so passionate about what we're doing, we want to make the best, our margins are going to be less, you know, so we're actually making less percentage wise than what those other ones are, just because we want to keep the cost close to where people can afford,
manageable and accessible. Yeah.
And also because the materials are more expensive, it usually takes longer. There's so many factors that go into it. So yeah, I applaud you for doing that as well.
Thank you.
Speaking about the outdoors, I'd love to tap into that a little bit. Where did your love for the outdoors and just, you know, the industry in general come from?
Yeah. I mean, my love for the outdoors is really it came from both of my grandfathers, particularly my mother's dad, who, you know, when we were really young, I guess when I was technically in the crib at the time, my grandparents bought a piece of land from my great uncle's homestead. It was my grandmother's uncle. Hold on. I forget what the family dichotomy was there, but anyway, he was, because I just called him my uncle at the time. Nice. My much older uncle. Anyway, it was old family land in West Virginia. They bought a 1 acre plot of his large homestead, and built my father and my grandfather, his father-in-law, built this cabin. And so anytime growing up, anytime we went on vacation, anytime there was time off from school, you know, in the summers and so on and so forth, we would be in the backcountry of West Virginia, just adventuring around. We had some 4-wheelers there. There were lots of guns. There were lots of knives. We hunted a lot. We fished. It was so wonderful. You know, you get out, you'd leave the house or the cabin in the morning, and you would just disappear into the woods.
Yeah.
You know, for the whole day, and you might even skip lunch. You'd come back in for dinner, and your parents were just like hoping that you're still alive out there somewhere.
Yeah.
Which luckily we all survived. But
Nice.
Anyway, you know, the deep-seated love for the outdoors really, it came from my grandparents providing us with that outlet. You know, growing up in suburbia for most of the time of the year, It was always nice to have that outlet where you could just go out and you could do whatever you want and you could explore and do all these activities that you can't do in a suburban setting. And our grandfather he was a huge sportsman, huge outdoorsman. So, he hunted, he fished, he rode horses, like he spent time in Montana and he did all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a medical doctor by trade, but he just all of his spare time, he was an outdoorsman, and we were always got to go along for the ride. And luckily, he had the vision to be able to, purchase this land, build a cabin on it, and provide my cousins and I, and my family and my cousins, with this amazing opportunity to experience and get to know and fall in love with the outdoors. And it totally worked. My father's parents, they owned a farm. So 120 acre farm. So it was the same thing. When we go, we get to disappear out onto the farm, when we were there, and we got to explore and we got to hang out with cows and chickens and all this other stuff, learn about gardening and other just like essential skills that are kind of going the way of the dinosaur, because now we're all relying on these systems that have been set up and just general consumerism, where it's like, well, where do you get your food? I get it from the grocery store. Okay, where's the grocery store get their food? I don't know. It's like
such a disconnect from our food supply.
It's amazing. It's really amazing. But yeah, I would say, those are the two major reasons why we're in love with the outdoor experience.
Yeah. And, we're losing a lot of that. Most kids today, they don't spend much time just in nature and in the outdoors. And that's one of our missions, is to encourage people to get outside and spend more time and disconnect from their phones and technology and spend more time in nature, reconnecting with kind of that wild side that we all have within us. Because it's my belief that when we do that, we come back out of nature and become better fathers, business owners, spouses, all of those things, just better humans all around. So, are you doing anything specifically to encourage your own kids to love the wilderness and love the great outdoors?
Yeah, I mean, I try to get them out regularly. Anytime we're going on vacation, I like to go someplace that's a little more rural. We do a lot of like lakes and mountains.
Yeah.
We still make it to the family cabin on occasion. I'm right now making plans. So my dad, when he retired, he took over at a high level the family farm.
Mm-hmm.
Him and my uncle are running it. His brother. And so we get down to the farm, which is, still in a very rural state. And we get out there and we run through the fields and we play in the creeks and we do all these other things that unfortunately a lot of people don't have the opportunity to do. But, teaching my kids to, whatever it might be around fire, build fire, respect nature, don't litter, just the little things that other people, the other things that I think are missing from society as a whole, where it's like, you have a lot of people preaching sustainability and all this other stuff. And that same person is just like throwing a styrofoam Dunkin' Donuts cup out of their car window. And it's like, all right, well, we can talk about virtue signaling and all the other nonsense that goes on in our culture today, but it's just, if you're not teaching people to understand the outdoors from a young age, it's going to be a lot. I mean, just like with anything, it's going to be a lot more difficult to do that when they're older. So you need to instill some sort of deep-seated foundational understanding of what nature is, the value of nature and the outdoors. And, so because otherwise, culture gets a hold of it and gets, I think fuses things in a big way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Is there anything that you personally or that your company is doing to help improve conservation or sustainability and to help protect our wild spaces and places? That's something that we're really big on at Rewild Gear. It's just really putting an emphasis on that because we need more and more people to get involved there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the we're a very small company and we have basically no revenue yet.
I know a little something about that too.
Like you have this vision for what you can do in the future and how you can help. The basis of our company, which is quality products that will last generations. I think one of the biggest threats to nature and the environment is consumerism, right? I mean, it's these like cheap things that we buy from different places that we know that we're going to throw those things away, or they're going to need to be replaced shortly. And they're made out of materials that they're not durable, and they're not biodegradable. So they're just going to end up in a landfill somewhere. And while it's probably not practical. You can't make everything out of something that's biodegradable right now. I mean, hopefully we get there. And I know that there's a lot of smart people working on that. For us, when you make a product that's meant to last, that's, I think, the most essential thing you can do to be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. And that is one of the basic drivers of what we're doing. And that's one of the most important parts of having a good quality product, is that it's going to last a long time. If your product doesn't last a long time, it's not a quality product. And it's probably not even it's just a bad design, right? A high quality computer that lasts 3 years or so,
functional obsolescence.
Yeah. Right.
Or intentional obsolescence.
And I'm sure that would be argued depending on who you're talking to, but yeah, I mean, and that's another reason why we love the idea of knives, right? Is because it's a timeless tool. It's not going to go out of style. You're always going to need it. And you can make something that's going to last a very, very long time. It isn't going to take up space in a landfill.
Sure. On that note, however, from strictly a business perspective, when you're making something that is going to last, quote unquote, forever, or has a lifetime warranty, you're really limiting yourself as far as sales, because you can't sell that same thing to someone else unless they lose it or they somehow break it, or something. So, this flies in the face of this current entrepreneurial startup culture that we have of let's build something and get a subscription and recurring revenue, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. However, throw as much money at it and just consume. And so we can make the most revenue and then sell it and make $1 billion. So where is that balance when it comes to business and technology and making money and creating amazing products that are sustainable, that last, but also enables you to have a business for the long haul? The goal isn't just to build something and sell it, but maybe to pass it on to your own kids.
Yeah. So say a few things on that. So first and foremost, there's billions of people in this world. And so making a good quality product is not going to cost you business. Insuring something for or guaranteeing something for a lifetime shouldn't cost you business. Is it the fastest way to $2 billion? No, it's not.
Definitely not.
But if you have principles and if you have ethics and a moral compass, that's the right way to do it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I'm calling a lot of people out there because I think that there's a lot of people out there who, at whatever cost, just want to be rich.
Sure.
That's not what we're about, and that's not what we want to do. Not that we wouldn't love to be rich, right? I mean,
if we get there, and that will happen because creating those quality products,
because of the value, because of the true value that you're bringing, and because of the recognition of your principles and your ethics. Those are things that are foundational to a company and a cause. And as long as you stay true to those things, the money will come. It's like, you can scale a business out as fast as you can and make it as easy and as cheap to buy your product and use it over and over again, or whatever it might be. But if you don't have that foundation, you might sell it for $1 billion, but whoever buys it's an idiot, because it's not built for the long term.
Yeah.
Right. So with Reiff Knives, we want to build something that's going to be generational.
Yeah.
And that's really it. And so in order for it to be generational, it's got to be built on appropriate foundations, morals, ethics, mm-hmm. A general understanding of what's right and what's wrong, looking beyond just the value of $1.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, I completely agree there. One thing I meant to ask earlier, and we waltz past that, is where did the name Reiff Knives come from? Why didn't you call it Shank Knives?
Yeah, Shank Knives. Yeah, so our last name's Shank, spelled appropriately, Shank. Appreciate you bringing that up. We just no, you know what it was? So there's a couple reasons. A, we felt like we're not making knives that are for stabbing people in prison. From a gimmick
they can improvise those on their own.
We're not. We didn't want to be gimmicky about it, because we're making a quality product that's built to last. We didn't want to have gimmicks around it, and we felt like, unfortunately, our last name could be considered gimmicky because it's a perception thing. Even though it is our last name, that's and you could say that that's just divine provenance or whatever. It's just like it was always meant to be, but. Reiff, the name Reiff is a family name. It's the maiden name of my 5th great grandmother. So my 7th great grandfather came to Philadelphia from Switzerland, Germany in 1715.
Oh, wow.
His grandson, Henry Shank, was married to Anna Reiff. And they were in the late 1700s. He was the first Mennonite bishop in Virginia. So they moved from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, down to the area of Harrisonburg, Virginia. The reason we picked Reiff is because we like the sound of it. It's one syllable.
Yeah.
And also, just out of respect for what they did, going from Pennsylvania and civilization down to the middle of nowhere in the mid 1700s, like that was not for the faint of heart. Sure. I mean, they were true trailblazers. I mean, just to imagine what the world must have been like for them then, going and starting something completely new in this new country, right? I mean, they would have been going down there right around the time of the American Revolution, like just a wild scenario. In fact, just down the street from my grandparents' farm is the Lincoln plantation. So Abraham Lincoln's grandfather's farm was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles down the road. So now it's it's a historical landmark. But it's crazy to think about that, like our family was running around and creating America with people like Daniel Boone and Abe Lincoln's freaking grandparents. Like that's cool. Wild to think about. So anyway, it was an honor thing. Like we felt like we couldn't use Shank. So we found somebody in our family tree that had a cool story and that sort of resonated with what we saw as our vision for Reiff Knives, which was, just our moral and ethical compass, as well as our thirst for adventure.
Yeah.
And the amount of courage that's required to do things that we do,
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Stu, what is the biggest life lesson that nature and the outdoors and just the wilderness in general has taught you?
The biggest life lesson is that everything's connected. Absolutely everything is connected. You cannot, I mean, it's like the butterfly effect. Like you can't do something somewhere and not have it affect something else somewhere down the road. And that's why it's so important that we are all so mindful of how we're spending our time and what we're doing on a daily basis, because we are living in history right now. We're creating history, and the things that we do today and for the rest of our lives are going to have effects on people for generations to come. Yeah. So I think it's, and that's why it's so important to be able to understand nature. I mean, it is our life force. It's how we survive, right? The earth was designed that way. Yeah. We are nature. So if we continue to to boil this down, if we continue to destroy nature, we're just destroying ourselves. And if we're doing that just for money, something that really, like, it has value in our culture, and you need money to survive, right? Because that's how our systems have been set up. But that's not, like, for thousands and thousands of years up until 200 years ago, that wasn't the case, right?
Yeah.
So, there is a better way. There is a better way, and we just need to, the more that we can get back to doing things the right way in sort of a respectful manner, to where we're respecting other people, respecting the earth, just using good sound judgment that's based on some sort of a moral compass, like just do anything good,
Yeah.
and you're going to have positive effects. Who knows how long into the future, generations.
I completely agree with all that. That's great sound advice too. Stu, what outdoor gear equipment do you consider essential when you're going out for your adventures?
Yeah.
And I know you're going to say a knife, as would I. Two knives.
Two knives. One is none. Two is one. Right.
Yep.
So two knives. You got to have layers. I'm a big layer guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're going out into the woods in a t-shirt, and I've learned this the hard way, on more than one occasion. Even if it's warm out in during the day, like you're probably going to be in trouble at some point. Just like bring some layers, put them in your pack. A pack's essential if you're going on a real adventure. I mean, if you're just going out for a little walk in the woods, you probably don't need a pack. You should probably have some first aid equipment, some basic stuff to stop the bleeding if you need to. Ideally, you'd have some sort of a way to communicate with somebody if you couldn't get yourself out of the woods. Nice pair of shoes or boots are going to be essential. Some way to make fire in case the worst happens. Like those are the most basic things.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, food's important. Whether you're bringing it, just be sure to clean up after yourself. Or the ability to get your own food. In that case, you may want to have some sort of the ability to make traps. Yeah, great. Guns are also great. They're great for protecting yourself in a worst case scenario, depending on where you are in the wilderness. And if you're in a survival situation, they're very efficient at getting food. So anyway,
yeah, no, that works for me.
I would say that would summarize my thoughts on gear. Yeah. Obviously, you need some sort of a shelter if you're going to be out overnight. You need some way to stay warm. Whether that's a sleeping bag or, you just have to have a plan, and again, when we talk about designing knives and the use case, like what's your adventure? What's the use case? Like I've had some crazy experiences where we haven't planned our gear well. And those learning experiences were so valuable because it's like, you have to plan your gear very specifically for the trip you're going on. If you don't, you're going to be miserable. You may even put your life in danger. So I digress.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. I like all of those a lot. Stu, what outdoor brands other than your own do you think are doing a great job, whether in product quality or sustainability or both?
Rewild gear, of course.
Outside of us too.
I really, I'm gonna take the opportunity to rep another knife company. I love SE Knives and I love what they do and the products that they put out. I own quite a few and I'll probably own more.
Same.
I really like, as far as like packs and things go, I like what Tough Possum Gear is doing and what they're all about. I like the Hidden Woodsman, shelter stuff. I like War Bonnet Outdoors. That and I really I'm into the American made as much as possible. All these companies are made in America stuff, made in America products that are high quality and made here. Hey, if you're into cast iron cookware and camping, Stargazer Cast Iron, they make a really awesome product it's smooth. It's lighter weight, smoother cast iron. So it's kind of harkens back to the days of like Griswold and Wagner. And I mean, people who know cast iron understand the value of good cast iron cookware. So I like what they're doing in that sense. Let's see. I know there's others that just aren't coming to mind in the moment under pressure. Yeah. I'm not that great of a public speaker, so a lot of times I have trouble getting things from my head to my mouth without losing them. I don't know what it is. I've always been a better writer.
Yeah.
So
all good. Yeah. Stu, do you have a favorite book or books that have really impacted your life over the years?
Yeah. The two that always come to mind that have had the most profound effect on me, my life, and what drives me are The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Yeah.
That's one of my absolute favorite books. I think that everybody should read it at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the book Ishmael, and I can't remember who the author is, but it's a book about culture and like how culture happens as sort of a fictional story. I had a biology professor have that as required reading when I was in college, and it seemed so like weird. Like why are we reading this book? If you haven't read it, definitely pick it up. It's it's a really cool take on culture and just how things work and things evolve from a social standpoint.
We'll definitely get those added into the show notes for sure.
Yeah. And then I think the biggest one for me is the Bible.
Cool.
It's the book I read every day and that I'll continue reading as often as possible for the rest of my life. And it's just absolutely central to everything I do.
Great.
So, yeah.
What's one piece of advice you would give to our audience?
One piece of advice. Well, if you're I'm going to provide a little bit of context and give a couple different things. If you're going to start a business, it's going to be way harder than you think. It's going to be way harder than you think. So just be ready for it. If you're not passionate about what you're getting into, you're going to have trouble because it is just so much more difficult. Like I said, 3 times longer, 3 times more expensive. I'm sure Seth and his brothers will attest to this.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The other thing is just remember everything's connected and that everything that you do, good or bad, is going to have a profound effect in ways that you can't possibly even understand. So just understand what you're doing and why you're doing it. And just try to have motivations for good rather than selfishness.
Altruism.
And we'll all be a lot better off if we can each do that.
Yeah, that's great. Stu, this has been so much fun. Thanks so much for being on the show today. Where can people go to find out more about you online?
Yeah, you can. I think the places we're most active are our website, reiffknives.com. Reiff is spelled REIFF knives.com. And then we're very active on Instagram. We're active on Facebook. We're going to get more active on YouTube. We're Reiff Knives on all those platforms, so you can find us there. Yeah. Right now, those are the places our knives should start hitting dealers over the next few months. We're going to be rolling out to different dealers around the country, so you'll be able to find our products at different well-known dealers around the world, which we're looking forward to. Like I said, we will be selling through our website once we have the inventory to support it. So feel free to reach out. My name's Stu. Ben's the other guy you might talk to. We're pretty approachable, and we'd love to hear from you.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for having us, Seth.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for coming on the show. And for all of you listening, until next time, stay wild.
Thanks for listening to the Rewild Gear Podcast. You could check out the show notes for today's episode at rewildgearpodcast.com. If you're ready to spend more time in the wild, our line of high-quality, minimalistic outdoor gear can help you do just that. Check us out at rewildgear.com.